guys! So with The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 just around the corner, I thought it'd only be right to take a look at not just The Hunger Games, not just The Hunger Games Catching Fire, and not just The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, but all three. So let's begin with the movie that started it all, The Hunger Games. This movie introduces one of, I think, the coolest heroines I've ever seen, Katniss, played by, Jennifer Lawrence, the Oscar winner, and she does incredibly well in this role. She has throughout the entire series. Although I went into this movie just wanting to really see The Hunger Games, I never really knew about the books and stuff. I went in and I got so much more than that. I was thrown into this world that was created by this author, by these directors that took over this franchise, and they really transported me into it. As the opening chapter of a franchise, that's really all you can ask for. That with a plethora of good characters. I like the whole dynamic between Katniss and Peeta, and how at the beginnings it's just really a show, and then you can get hints of where this is gonna go. And for a movie that, odd enough, I just wanted to see a huge action fest. I walked out of this movie thinking, it wasn't just about that. It's starting to hit at a bigger picture. I felt emotion. You feel the heartstrings pull when certain characters, die. Again, with all the heartstringing moments, there are also the badass moments where, she shoots the arrow at the apple and when she's doing the testing. I love that scene. Speaking of the actual Hunger Games, I thought they were done very well. Yes, I can understand how some people may say that the shaky cam especially the beginning, the cornucopia scene, how it's a little overbearing, but in the later installments of the franchise, they definitely fixed that. But at the beginning here, I think it kind of works. Overall, The Hunger Games, I think, is just a really solid film. It does exactly what it needs to do, shows you into this world, gets you, excited to see other stuff, intrigued by President Snow and the whole, government and the whole Hunger Games aspect. It gets you interested in some relationships between other characters. It does its job very well. So, that's the first installment, The Hunger Games. Let's go into the predecessor, the one that really elevated the stakes. And that one is The Hunger Games Catching Fire. I mentioned when I was talking about The Hunger Games, the whole aspect that I was surprised that it wasn't just The Hunger Games and just the murder and everything between the kids. It's, the whole world-building aspect. This movie takes that surprise, takes that intriguing aspect of, the whole world, and amplifies it to the max. This movie is everything I think that a sequel should be. It ups all the stakes. It improves on some of the problems that other people had on the films, and in my personal opinion, this is the best of the franchise. I love how probably the first third of this movie doesn't have anything to do with The Hunger Games at all. Well, the first one was preparation. This one was just seeing the aftermath of what the Hunger Games can do. You can sense the hope in all these people throughout this world. And at the same time, while you can feel the hope from all these people, you can also sense the fear. As Snow even says in one of the movies, he's like, what's more powerful than fear? Hope. And I love how this movie illustrates that there's hope between some people and fear. And, it's going back and forth. Who's right, who's wrong. You get this whole urgency of something starting to come. This movie, even more than Hunger Games, I would say, hits those hard notes so strong that you take every impact, whether it's a whiplash, people getting killed, people sacrificing themselves, anything it is. It takes all of that, takes it to a gritty, realistic level, and that's why I think that this movie stands above the first Hunger Games. And of course, the Hunger Games themselves in this movie, I think, are just so much more well done than they were in the Hunger Games. I like the water aspect, that whole scenario. I love all the different challenges or tasks or phases that they have to do within this arena. Katniss and Peeta, again, the relationship is starting to grow. You can tell that, it's going a little bit more personal now. That this acting isn't really necessarily acting for some cases. And if I didn't mention Finnick Odair, I think I'd be doing his character some real injustice. So I'm gonna mention him. Initially, I thought this guy would just be the eye candy, the one that the girls just, go over. But this guy stood out in this film and is one of my favorite characters. He's badass with the trying to stab people in the thing. He's just great. Well, the Hunger Games did a great job, I think, introducing the world. Catching Fire does a great job expanding that world, throwing all these intricate storylines and all these intricate characters in there, and just opening the world up so much more than what it really is. Because it's not just about the Hunger Games anymore. It's about starting a rebellion. So yeah, the Hunger Games Catching Fire. And last, but certainly not least, Deathly Hallows Mockingjay Part 1. And because I didn't mention it while introducing this movie, I think this one feels a lot like Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, some people may call it, unnecessary. In fact, I didn't read the book, so I honestly can't be the judge. But Deathly Hallows Part 1, to me, although it is really good, and this movie is really good, don't get me wrong, I really, really like this movie. But I think this movie is meant to be watched in one way and one way only. Watch this, and directly after watch Part 2. While the first one throws you into the world, the second one opens up everything. This one, it starts to close it all because the chapter's coming to an end. But this one is really just about hope, and, in case you didn't realize, that was one of my favorite bits. The beginning act of the second one was one of my favorite parts, and this one, I think, has that beginning of the second feel to it. It really is a movie about Katniss finding out who she needs to be for this rebellion, and that she needs to be the leader. I love movies that are just based on character studies to see where they end up and how they have to become who they have to be. I think Katniss is such an interesting character, and I've been along for the entire ride so far, that this movie just elevated to so many high levels. And this one pulls at the heartstrings, guys. Like, the one scene that really stands out to me in this movie isn't any big action scene. It's not. It's just a calm scene where Katniss is sitting on the rocks with her little team. She starts singing the Hanging Tree song, and the way they intercut that with like people beginning to rebel against the Capitol and stuff, it's just so well done that you just feel like you're there and that you've had enough of this bullshit, and you're like, you know what, Snow, you're going down. As I mentioned the Capitol, what they do to Peeta in this movie, it hits you hard. Everything with Peeta and the whole like false advertising for all these people saying that the Capitol's great, it just brings a great, interesting dynamic to this film. This movie has most things I want in a film. It has those emotional, slower moments. It has great characters doing great things. And it has those intense, edge-of-your-seat stuff when people are, you know, infiltrating other buildings. So overall, I think The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 is just really superb. My only real problem, which I can't really even consider it a problem, is that, you know, you have to wait a year for the other half, and I think they will be best watched half and half. But, you know, as a movie itself, this movie is really, really good. Do I prefer Catching Fire over this? Yes. But The Hunger Games, you know, Mockingjay Part 1 is still a fantastic movie. So in case you haven't noticed, I think this franchise is just incredible. I love what they've done with certain characters, I love where they've taken them, and I want to see this, you know, bigger picture come to a close. I cannot wait for Mockingjay Part 2. I want to see good versus evil, I just want to see the final battle. So here comes that point of the video where I ask you what you guys think about the Hunger Games series so far. Are you excited for the new one? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, I'm Marco Polo 2417. Ciao for now.